Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. So this is going to be one of the first videos that we're going to do in lieu of battle reports. We're basically going to have a quick look and showcase some of the armies that I'm currently playing. This is the current Age of Sigmar army that I'm currently playing. I'm using it in a 1500 point league that is running at the moment at my local club. This is my Beastclaw Raiders army, which is part of the Ogre Mawtribe's battle tome. Originally started this army back in first edition with one or two little units. Didn't really flesh it out just because I didn't play a great deal of the first edition Age of Sigmar. I was kind of playing, if anything, a little more 40k back then. But then when second edition dropped and they finally updated the battle tome a couple of months ago, I felt I'd jump in and do that a little bit more with that army. Mainly because it's a very low model count, particularly the Beastclaw Raiders, eschewing all kind of foot infantry. It's essentially just an army of great big guys riding great big monsters, so what's not to love about that? Very low model count, lots of character in each of the models, and you can basically just go to town really on it. It's also one of the first armies that I kind of started using a lot of contrast paints with as well, so the emphasis was trying to get this painted very, very quickly up to speed. So it's painted to an alright tabletop standard, but nothing too fancy or anything like that. I've really just kind of got them painted up as quick as I can do. So let's have a little look at the actual models and everything like that. I'll go through how the army's kind of put together a little bit, and I'll showcase you exactly what's in there for you as well. Okay guys, so here's the actual army itself. So it's as close to 1500 points as I could get with what I had available to me. So I could get probably a little bit closer to the 1500 if I dropped a unit of the Mournfang Riders, maybe put in a hunter and some saber tusks as well. But I actually quite like the wholly mounted army idea of the force. So it comes out at about 1490. And that's including a 50-point command point as well. So there's actually only about 1440 points worth of actual models on here. So I got to as close as I could do. So how it basically works is it is a Boulderhead tribe force. So one of the two particular tribes which is all about mounted the Beastclaw Raiders. So it's one of the only ones that really kind of benefits them. And you get a whole host of really cool abilities for them. So the army is led by this guy here, who is a Frostlord on Stonehorn. You'll probably notice that I've gone for Stonehorns over Thunder Tusks on all of my characters. I just prefer the raw hitting power that you can get from a Stone Tusk as opposed to a Thunder Tusk, Stonehorn, sorry. So this guy is leading the force. He is an absolute beat stick as part of the force, as you kind of expect him to be. There's no wonder that in some lists you kind of see 4 of these guys, although I'm not entirely certain how they're able to kind of do that at present. So he is armed with his Frost Spear. Quite nice, gets loads of abilities, things like that for him as well. And I've kind of stacked a few abilities on there as well, including mount traits and things like that. How that basically comes out, I have gotten, he comes with he has to take the Boulderhead Artefact, which is the brand of the Svard, and basically means that all his mounts melee attacks +1 to hit, which is absolutely awesome. When you then stack it with the mount trait that I've also taken for him, which is the Black Clatterhorn. So what that does is that means that then his horns also get +1 to hit. So that means that his horn attacks are hitting on 2s, which is absolutely horrific when you kind of factor that in for him as well. Plus, gets crushing hooves and his punches and kicks and the actual spear as well. So he's absolutely horrific when he actually makes it into combat. So there's a very good reason why a lot of people have been attempting to kind of take him out first in combat. My other character is this gentleman here, who is a Huskard on Stonehorn as well, armed with a Blood Vulture. So the a couple of different weapons that you can choose to give him. I chose the Blood Vulture just because it's quite a nice, fairly easy way of dealing out mortal wounds, which is always a good benefit. So he can just basically start pinking off wounds off of characters or things that I'm probably going to be looking to make a hit or a charge against later in the turn. Fun fact, actually, he is the very first model from the Force, actually. So basically, he's the oldest in here. He's from first edition. So I actually started painting him before contrasts were actually a thing. So whereas everything else in the army is kind of done with contrast paints and blending and things like that, he's kind of all traditional things. So he is painted a little bit different to some of the other guys as well. So yeah, he's pretty nice as well. As terms of mount trait, sorry, I gave him Old Granite Tooth, which basically adds +1 charge to all Stonehorns and Mournfang packs whilst they're holding within 12 inches of him. So again, just a nice another way of making sure that you're getting those charges in. So just that little bit extra movement buff, because you do get plenty of movement buffs with the Boulderhead tribe as well. All monsters getting a +1 movement bonus whilst they're within 12 inches of the general of the army as well. So it's quite a highly deceptively mobile force for a big lumbering force of big guys. So they're my only two my two heroes, sorry. So I've then got them reinforced with some Battleline troops. So here we have the first of the Battleline units. This is a unit of Stonehorn Beastriders. So 2 guys riding another Stonehorn, just because I would like to keep as many big things in the army as possible. So we've got 2 guys on top, one armed with a chain trap, the other armed with a harpoon. So just to give us some ranged abilities as well. Which is deceptive. A lot of people don't expect there to be quite some nasty shooting that can come out from these guys as well. So just make sure that they're quite effective in all the phases. Because they're not characters, unfortunately, they don't get a mount trait. Quick one is because of the Boulderhead army, the actual tribe that these guys all belong to, usually only one person would be able to get a mount trait, one character. But in this particular force, all characters on monsters can take a mount trait, so you basically can get some really nice abilities kind of stacking up and things like that, giving some really nice army-wide abilities where you can get extra movement, bits and pieces like that as well. So that is the big guy. Then filling out the battle line units, we've then got 3 units of Mournfang Riders. So 2-man units apiece. Just simply armed with a single champion. Didn't really go anything higher, anything bigger, unit numbers wise, just because these guys are very hard to shift. There's 12 wounds total between them, and they can dish out some serious damage, so they've actually got quite a bit of staying power between them. The champion's armed with a pistol, an Ironlock pistol, so again, nice little bit of ranged abilities, which just helps just to kind of reduce wounds down from the enemies before you make that charge in and start beating stuff in combat. So again, it's just a nice little way of kind of plinking things down. In all honesty, I don't think the banners and stuff are necessary, so I only decided to give them the champion and that was it. Just to try and keep the units rather small, highly mobile, just because the one downside of this army is that with the low model count, it's quite difficult to kind of go up against big armies and stuff like that, particularly when you're kind of doing objective-based games. It's hard to kind of spread yourself, so you do need a few smaller units just to kind of get around the board and to hold objectives where possible. Usually, sometimes it doesn't come into it, even that case, just because by that point you've hit the battle lines and you're starting to crush their armies and remove models and stuff like that. So you're taking out some of their effectiveness as well. Okay, so there's the models. As I said, it's not quite 1,500 points. I even had to basically shell out for a command point just to make up the points a little bit, just so I could kind of get as close as possible. And to be honest, with utilising the some of the abilities that come with the Boulderhead troops, The tribe's command ability is that you can pick a model, or you can pick a monster rather, until the next phase that they count as being on their top bracket profile. So if you take a lot of wounds, if you don't get the first turn or whatever of you, and you start to accrue a lot of wounds and stuff like that, these guys can downgrade, particularly the bigger guys, quite quickly. Using that command trait can actually, command ability, sorry, can actually allow them to still have a lot of big damage output, particularly when it's the Frostlord, because everyone seems to aim for him first. So that allows you then to really kind of get in there and get stuck in and use everything to the fullest of its ability as well. Coupled as well with the Frostlord's ability to get you to get bonuses for charges and things like that as well. So you do kind of use your command points quite quickly, especially if you want to guarantee charges and things like that as well. At the moment in the league, we've kind of I'm currently awaiting my third game, which has kind of been put on hold. The whole league has been put on hold, obviously, whilst the COVID-19 thing kind of peaks itself out. So currently I'm one loss, one victory. So my first matchup was against a Caradron Overlord army. Lot of ships, things like that, a lot of movement shenanigans, and to be honest, it was an incredibly close game. My opponent Star basically admitted that it was one of the best games he'd played. We kind of really got down to it, and he only ended up winning by a very, very small margin in the last turn of the game. It was just essentially the slugfest mission. The name eludes me, unfortunately. Just to basically see who kills the most amount of models at the end of the game. So it was incredibly close, and we both had a real good laugh with that one. So I really did enjoy that game. It's probably one of the best games of Age of Sigmar that I've actually played. Just because it really made me think about kind of engagement and movement, and basically making sure that I was getting all that I could do out of the models, movement wise and things like that as well. My second game was against the Oryx, particularly a Ironjaw's army. Absolutely smashed through that army. I was expecting quite a lot of resistance with that one, with orcs, and particularly heavily armoured orcs. I was expecting to have a bit of a slugfest. The game was over by turn 2, by the end of my turn 2, and I was top. Unfortunately, I got a double turn on my second turn. Absolutely crushed his general, a beat stick of a Orc War Leader on a Maw Crusher. The name of the actual guy eludes me at the moment. So wiped him out and managed to wipe out an entire unit, a big 6-man unit of the cavalry as well. The guys on pigs, crushed them in the first turn as well. And really the second turn was literally just mopping bits and pieces up, so it was an absolute whitewash. So I felt the dice gods were certainly on my favour in that game, so I felt really quite bad at the end of that game, because it was just an absolute one-sided slugfest. So my next matchup is going to be up against Legions of Nagash, against a guy who I've already actually played once, just so he could get a bit of an idea as to how the game works. He's not had too much experience in Age of Sigmar, particularly this edition, so we had a quick friendly game before the league started up, and we had a bit of a fun game of that one. So I can see that would be a bit of an interesting one, with him being able to have attrition on his side. He can basically kind of bring stuff back. Once I get into, I can do a lot of damage on the charge and things like that, but then if I get stuck, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to kind of grind through things, because a lot of my damage is done on the charge, with the charge bonuses and the attacks as well as additional damage done on the charge. But once you kind of get past that and you start to degrade and stuff, basically your ability to kind of deal out a lot of damage kind of starts to kind of steadily decline. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm looking forward to that one. So that's where I'm at in terms of the league. What I'd like to do, what I'm intending to do with this army, is I'm going to grab a Hunter at some point, and some Saber Tusks as well. So I'm probably going to grab the new one that's come out for Beastgrave, use him, convert him up a little bit. I got an idea to convert some Saber Tusks out of Space Wolf wolves, just because I'm not a massive fan currently of the older sculpts for the saber tusks, and they're quite pricey as well. For the same price as to a 4, the saber tusks can get a big 5-man pack of wolves, and they're quite nice models as well. So I'll just do a little bit of converting with those guys as well. If I want to be really nasty with this army, I could potentially drop a unit of Mournfangs and then make a Earlbad Warscroll battalion. What happens with that one is that any 6s that I roll, any natural 6s that I roll in close combat for the Earlbad battalion, so that would be the Huskard, and then any Mournfangs and the Beastclaw Raider, get the name right eventually, the Stonehorn Beastriders. Those guys, not the Frostlord, all of their melee attacks, 6s to hit, natural 6s to hit, are mortal wounds as well as additional hits as well. So basically you get all your normal damage plus mortal wounds as well. So your damage output really goes through the roof at that point as well. So that would be an interesting one to start out with. I did start out using that Warscroll battalion when I first started this army, when I was kind of running at 1,000 points, and some of the kind of output that you could get from that was quite scary, so that might be interesting to see that one when I'm looking to kind of pad this out further, potentially towards 2,000 points. So that's going to be an interesting way of kind of going further with that. Plus I've also got loads of ogres on foot as well. So I've got some gluttons, I've got the new tyrant, the plastic tyrant, I've got the Feast of Bones box set to really pad stuff out. So I've got quite a lot to kind of keep me over and kind of mix and match if I want to. If I want to mix the tribes a little bit and go from there as well. So there's going to be some quite interesting stuff. So I may look at padding that out into a full army. So basically a foot-based ogre army as well, and doing some stuff with that as well, if Games Workshop ever get some of this stuff back into stock, because currently I believe the lead belchers and the iron guts, the heavily armoured guys with the big 2-handed weapons, are out of stock at the moment because they're proving quite popular. So once they're back in stock again, we'll be doing some other bits and pieces of that as well. So this is probably going to be the army that I'm going to be using quite a bit for when we start getting battle reports out, just because it's quite a quick army to kind of use on the tabletop. So because of the low model counts and stuff, you can cycle through things quite quickly. So it'll probably be quite a good one to use format based for actually getting battle reports and stuff done as well. So alright guys, well thank you very much for sticking with me in my ramblings. So like I say, this is going to be the first of many videos where I'm going to be going through some of the armies. So you'll basically see videos from my Bloodbound for Khorne for Age of Sigmar, my Stormcast Eternals as well as other 40k armies as well. So thank you very much. If you like the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you later for more content.